All right, 3B. Let's break out a new marker here. I know, exciting. 3B. All right, so we're gonna write the equation of a line. What's that gonna look like then? What am I shooting for? Y equals mx plus b. All right, so what do I know about this line? It's tangent to this circle. Now, I drew the circle centered at the origin. Does that make sense to everybody? Because the equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared equals 5. Where's the center of that circle? The origin. What's the radius of that circle? Root 5, not that it matters, but that's what it is. So there's this point 2, 1 on the circle. Oh, 1, 2 on the circle. And I want to write the equation of the line tangent. So that's the line I'm looking for. Would you agree with that? Now, in order to write the equation of a line, I need two things. I need to know the slope, right? And I need to have a point, x, y, to plug in here to find the intercept. Now, I have that point, right? So I just need to focus on how I'm going to find the slope. I only have one point on that line. So I'm not going to be able to do y minus y over x minus x. I don't have enough information. So what can you tell me about the slope of that line? Jamie?
It's perpendicular to the radius.
Remember from geometry that yes, very good. A radius and a tangent are perpendicular if the point is tangency. Can I find the slope of this radius? Yes, because don't I have 2 points? So the slope of the radius would be 2 minus 0 over 1 minus 0. So the slope of that line, the radius line, is 2. Which means the slope of the line I'm looking for has to be negative 1/2. So now I have my slope and I have my point. So 2, where's my point? There it is. 2 equals negative 1/2 times 1 plus b. So b equals 2.5 or 5/2. So my equation is negative 1/2 x plus 5/2.
Could you just like count the slope, like rise over arm?
Count what slope?
The
This slope?
tangent line, yeah.
How would you know? How would you know what to count? Rise over run.
Well, so couldn't you just go like down 1, then over 2, and then you meet up with the line?
You mean from this point?
Yeah.
You definitely could count down to and over 1, but how would you know? Somehow you have to know to count down to and over 1. How would you know that?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're relying on the picture or if I'm missing some obvious thing, but you have to figure out what that slope is before you can count it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
How do you find that negative 1/2 for m?
We found the slope of this one
Slope of that.
using these 2 points, and then this is the opposite reciprocal because the lines are perpendicular.
Okay. That makes sense.
All right, who else had a question about one of these problems? Lily?
On number 2, I got up to I did that one thing where you go 3 plus 2i.
Okay, what do we call that?
Conjugate?
We're multiplying top and bottom by the conjugate, yep. That's exactly what you want to do.
And and then I got up to like, I did all the work up to 2i squared plus 13i plus 15 over 9 plus, or minus 4i squared.
So is this kind of what you had?
Yeah, and I don't know if I,
What's negative 2i squared?
1, maybe.
Well, I squared is negative 1. So what
So
would
2.
negative 2i squared be?
2.
Positive 2. So this becomes positive 2, so I've got 17 minus 7i on the top over, okay, here we go again. What's negative 4i squared? Plus 9 is 13.
Okay.
I
What's
got
wrong?
Oh, what, did I do something wrong?
it's over 3 minus 2i, not over 3 plus 2i.
Oh, I copied it wrong. Oh, I copied it wrong. So, let me fix it, Lily, because I copied it wrong. That won't change the denominator, fortunately, but it will change some things in the numerator. Okay, so now, on the top, I've got positive 2i squared. What's positive 2i squared? So that would be 13. Now wait, did I get everything right now?
Yes.
Okay, well that's kind of unusual. Look at there, we got all these 13s all over the place. So we can cancel those, and all we have left is 1 plus 1i. You can cancel 13s everywhere.
Five, like all the five, like 5 through A through C. How do you know like whether it's in the parentheses or brackets or like and or?
Well, I mean, okay, so which one do you want me to do? Pick one.
C.
C. Okay, now first of all, it doesn't tell me how to write my answer. So I can write my answer either in interval notation or regular notation. Okay, it doesn't make any difference. How do I solve a quadratic inequality? What's my first step here? What do I do with that? Factor it. So I'm going to draw my number line. And where are my 2 dots going to go on the number line? There's 2 parentheses, so I know I'm going to have 2 dots.
3 and 1.
And they're going to go 1 and 3, right. And then what do I do?
Shade.
I shade somewhere, but I got to figure out where to shade. So I pick a number somewhere, maybe 0. If I pick 0, and I put it in here, I would have a negative parentheses and another negative parentheses. Now what happens when I multiply 2 negatives? Is that what I was hoping would happen? No. What does less than 0 mean? Negative. Write the word negative here if that's going to confuse you. Less than 0 means negative. So this did not work. Now I told you before, if you just have regular factors, nothing different or unusual, they're always going to alternate. They always are. But if that confuses you, then pick a number in here, like 2, and that would give you negative, positive. Does that work? Yeah, so that section works. And then pick a number over here like 4. Gives you 2 positives. Does that work? No. So, Robert, for this particular problem, that's the shaded area. So I write my answer. As an interval, those are closed dots. I use closed bracket notation. As a set, I do this. We don't memorize that this problem has this answer and this problem has this answer. We solve the problem and see what comes out as the answer, and then we write it down. Okay?
So wherever it's shaded, that determines like how it's written.
That's the answer.
Okay, thank you.
The shaded area is the answer.
Could we do 5e?
5e. is a problem exactly like this one, except it's bigger. But the way we do the problem does not change. So what do we have to start off by doing? Same thing we did over here, which was what?
Factor.
Factor. Now, this has too many terms to factor like that one did. So what's your idea? What's your thought? How are we going to factor something this big?
Just graph it.
Well, we could graph it. The directions don't really tell me, except no calculator. So if I'm going to graph it, I'm going to have to graph it by hand,
Oh, wow.
which I prefer not to do. So, how am I going to do this?
Take out an X.
Well, be careful when you say take out an X. You can't take out an X in the whole thing. And you always want to have your equation set equal to 0. So don't even think something funky like, we'll just move the 40 to the other side. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Lily?
I don't know if it's synthetic division.
Well, synthetic division could be a piece of it. It isn't necessary in this problem because this problem factors by grouping. That's how we tackle it. We group it if it groups. Now, what do I mean by grouping it? Well, look at the first two terms. Just the first two. Is there anything you can take out of them?
X squared.
An x squared. And what would be left? All right, now let's look at the last two terms. Is there anything we can take out of the last two? -4. I think I pulled a -4 out. What will be left if I take out a -4? X minus 1. Now, if you're going to factor by grouping, then these two parentheses have to match. So it's possible to have a problem that groups. It's possible to have a problem that groups, like here, I could take out an x squared, and I could take out a -8. But that doesn't do me any good. Do you see the difference? You can almost always group, but it only serves you if those parentheses match. So ours do, so that's good. So we write it down. Write down the matching parentheses. What's left?
X squared.
X squared minus 4. And what about x squared minus 4? It's the difference of squares and factors like that, x plus 2, x minus 2. So what are the roots to the equation? This is not an inequality. This is just a straight equation. So we just say x equals what? No number line, you don't need to shade and all that. It's not an inequality, it's just an equation. What's x going to equal? Yep, there you go. There are your 3 solutions because you had a cubic equation. Jamie?
If you factor by grouping, what is it? No solution if the insides don't match?
No, it's just not factorable. Yeah, it doesn't mean there's, this equation has solutions. We're just not going to find them by factoring. We're going to have to use synthetic division or something like that. Okay, all right, anything else? Keep track of the ones we've done already. Who else had a question about one of these problems? Bailey? You're not chewing gum, are you, Bailey?
3A.
Full-size, non-generic box of Kleenex tomorrow. Or I can write you detention if you'd rather. I guess I'm doing Saturday school this year, so you do not want to end up there. Which one did you say?
3A.
3A. Oh, Bailey, how did you start this one? Finding the slope, and what did you get for your slope?
1/8.
So 2 minus 1 over 6 minus -2 is indeed 1/8. Okay, and then what did you do?
I plugged in the point.
Did you do slope intercept or point slope? You could do either one. So you used y equals mx plus b. Which point did you plug in?
The -2, 1.
So you put -2 in here, and you put 1 over here? So that makes -2/8, which is 1/4. And I'm gonna add a fourth, so 1 1/4 is 5/4. So I have y equals 1/8 x plus 5/4 as my equation. All right, who else has a question about one of these? Alexis?
Well, it's kind of like a question to the last one. Is it okay if we like put our slope and fraction that our like y-intercept is a decimal, or does it have to be like the same?
Oh, no, that would probably be okay. 7. Mr. Noel bought a bicycle 5 years ago. It cost $137. Bike is now worth $92. The equation B equals MT plus B. That's the equation of a line, right? That's exactly what Bailey just did. Here I erased it. Here it is. It's exactly what Bailey just did. Just has different letters. Models the value of the bike as a function of time in years. So this is the same as y equals mx plus b. So our ordered pairs, which are x comma y, in this problem would be t comma v. So in order to write the equation of the line, I need some points. So here we go. Do you have any points in the problem? What are the points in the problem?
0, 237,
Okay,
and then
5 and 92. So you wrote the equation there, you found the slope.
Yeah, and then
So we got 145 over -5. You said it's -29. So, and actually that points the y-intercept. So your equation is y equals -29x plus 237, or v equals -29t plus 237. How many years ago was the value of the bike 150? All right, so then what did you do? And we'll solve this. So I got 3. Now, this is a little bit tricky. I didn't mean it to be tricky, but now that I read it, it's a little bit tricky the way I asked the question, trickier than I wanted it to be. Yeah. So you get t equals 3. That means, remember when you said your points, this was after 5 years. So this would mean after 3 years. Well, this is now. So the answer is after 3 years, but since the question was, okay, so how many years ago was that? The answer is actually 2. I mean, that's just a vocabulary issue for me. I didn't word it correctly. 3 is the value we were really looking for, but the way the question's worded, you would have to say 2, because it was 2 years ago, because it was after 3 years. All right. Anybody else have a question on one of these problems? Robert?
Number 10.
All right, so this is kind of the same thing. We're going to write the equation of a line. Linear function, that's a line. Okay, and we're supposed to use Buffalo and Houston as our data points. Okay, so how do we write the equation of the line, Robert?
Y equals mx plus b.
So what's the first thing we have to do?
Find the slope.
So 298 minus 118 over 1600 minus 400. All right, so let's see what that slope comes out to be. .15. If I did that right? So then I'll pick a point, I guess I'll use that one because it's got smaller numbers. So y minus 118 equals 0.15, x minus 400. I got plus 178. Did I do that right? No, I did not. Nope, I did not. Minus plus 58. How does that look? Did I do it right this time? Anybody confirm that? So this is the equation of the line I'm going to use, and I'm using x's and y's, but what do my x's and y's represent? X represents the distance and y represents the cost. So when it says it costs $172, how far is it? What will we do?
172 is the y.
Yep. And solve that equation. So it looks like the answer is $760 miles. Well, it doesn't really say whether it's miles, so I don't know what it is. Assuming it's miles. All right, who else has a question about one of the problems?
On number 8, how do you find the
Well, there can be tons of different answers. You just have to have a window that's appropriate to see what you need to see. So if we're going to solve this thing graphically, I'm going to start with a standard window and just see if I can see what I need to see. So I'm going to put the equation in. And I have a standard window, so I'm just going to hit graph. And what I see when I do that with a standard window is this. I see something that looks like that with a standard window. Now, the equation is x cubed, and we haven't talked about this a lot, although certainly we have with quadratics. How many answers does a quadratic equation have? X squared? 2. Always 2. Once in a while they'll match. So it looks like there's only one, but there's still really 2 answers there. So a cubic equation is going to have 3 answers. Now, they don't all have to be real. So you may not see it cross 3 times. In other words, we have seen curves that look like this. That was a cubic curve we had the other day, and it only crossed 1 time. But I have no anticipation that that thing's going to cross ever again. I mean, it's shooting down this way and it's shooting up that way, so the only place it's going to cross is right here. This one crosses in 3 places. It will not be crossing any other place. it's a cube, so 3 is the max answers that it could have. So the question is, what you asked me was, how do I know if I have the right window? Do I see what I need to see to solve this equation? Yeah, so the window I have is fine. Now, could I have a different window and still see this? Absolutely. So it doesn't, I mean, you can have billions of different windows. The key is you have to be able to see what you're looking for, which in this case is these 3 answers. So to solve it now, the window's set, -10 to 10, -10 to 10 is fine. To solve it, you're gonna second count each of these and find out what those actual exit steps are. Okay?
Say this problem was like an inequality. How do you like find the answer?
Okay, absolutely nothing would change if it were an inequality, except when I answer, I would still need to find these points, everything would be the same, but they'd have that last little step. If it were less than or equal to 0, the answer would be everywhere the curve is less than those points, underneath those points. Otherwise, everything would be exactly the same. At the end, you write down all of this, instead of just those, you write down everything below it. Okay, who else had a question about one of these? Oh my. Yes, ma'am, Rachel.
Number 2, why is it 1 plus I instead of just
Why is it what?
1 plus I instead
Well, if I'm remembering right, we got 13 plus 13i over 13 when we did it. When you cancel 13 into 13, what do you get? And when you cancel 13 into 13, what do you get? So it's 1 plus 1i. Think of it like this. You can split that up into 13 over 13 plus 13i over 13. You can break that fraction apart. That's 1 plus I. Huh?
I just canceled all of them.
Well, you gotta hold this place. You can't, and that place just doesn't disappear. It leaves a 1. Mark it a 1 when you cancel. It's like if you have 2/4. When you cancel that, you don't get 2, you get 1 over 2, because when you canceled into here, it left a placeholder. Same thing. All right, anything else? Okay, well, tonight your homework is in the book. Now, I have assigned a massive number of review problems. These are due on test day. So you will turn them in on Tuesday. This packet of book problems, you will turn in on Tuesday, as well as, well, I reserve the right to collect anything I want on Tuesday. At that point, everything should be done, so I collect anything I want. But I wouldn't wait until Monday night to start the assignment, for 2 reasons. First of all, you're not gonna have an opportunity to ask questions then about it. And second of all, you're never gonna get it done, if there's a bunch of them. So you're gonna do some tonight, not have an additional assignment over the weekend, let's continue that. So you've got plenty of time to get all these done. And you can start right now. So they're listed, in Schoology, there's a million of them. In the review at the end of the chapter, I don't think I put a page number on there, but it's the review at the end of the chapter.